The Boston Celtics have been extremely impressive. Currently, the Celtics are up 3-0 on the Brooklyn Nets and are on the verge of a sweep, which is super impressive no matter what team they play, but especially considering the expectations for the Brooklyn Nets this season, which were championship favorites going into the season. It's just extremely impressive. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports. I make opinionated NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. But anyways, let's get into it.
Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetic.
When the playoffs were originally starting, this series with the Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets was seen as the best series in the first round of the playoffs. The reason being is both of these teams had legitimate superstars. For the Nets, it was KD and Kyrie. For the Celtics, it was Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And also, even besides those main players on those teams, they also had a pretty well-balanced roster. But probably the craziest and most exciting part of this first round matchup was both of these teams are legitimate championship contenders, but one of these teams were going to lose in the first round. So overall, there was just a ton of excitement around the series when it originally started, and people thought this would be a very close, hard-fought series. With a ton of people, including myself to be fair, thinking that the Brooklyn Nets were probably going to win this series, in maybe 6 or 7 games. And the reason why a lot of people had that opinion is obviously the Celtics have legitimate stars in Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, but when you look over at the Nets and see the stars that they have in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, it's just very difficult to bet against those guys, especially when talking about Kevin Durant. Because we all know over the past decade, KD has been one of, if not the best scorers in the NBA, and especially once it comes down to the playoffs, he's also been one of the best performers in that sense as well. And then when you also look at the other player they have on their team in Kyrie Irving, he's arguably the most talented player in the NBA, and of course also for him, once it comes down to the playoffs, he's also a phenomenal performer as well, especially when it comes down to the clutch, as we all remember that crazy 3-point jump shot that he hit against the Golden State Warriors in the finals a few seasons back. And it was never really anything against the Boston Celtics young core. It's not like people didn't think those guys were ready, but it was more so people thought it was just very difficult to bet against those two guys on the Nets, and they would have even more motivation after their season ended last year. But obviously that's not at all how it turned out, and the Celtics are playing extremely well in this series. But let's actually take a closer look into the series and see why the Celtics are actually playing so well. So the first reason for why the Celtics are playing so well in this series is pretty obvious, and that has to be due to their great defense. When you look at how these guys are playing great individual defense as well as phenomenal team defense, and making it so difficult for the Nets stars and Nets players in general to really get easy buckets, it's been phenomenal to watch. Specifically the Celtics defense on Kevin Durant especially, the amount of turnovers they're creating, the amount of bad shots they're forcing him into has honestly been astounding, and I don't necessarily think I've seen any team really play as good of a defense as the Celtics have been playing on Kevin Durant. And vice versa, I honestly don't think I've ever seen Kevin Durant struggle so much due to defense in a series like he has in this one. But even besides a great team defense, when you talk about a guy in Jayson Tatum and his individual defense on Kevin Durant specifically, it's been phenomenal. Jayson Tatum hasn't necessarily always been known as a great defender, but as the season's progressed, he certainly has gotten better in that department each and every season, and at this point, I think it's pretty clear that he's an elite defender, especially how he's been playing on a guy like Kevin Durant and almost shutting him down, honestly, and I don't necessarily think you would ever even imagine anybody to shut down Kevin Durant. It just shows the type of defense he's playing individually. But then when you look at some other guys on the roster, you talk about Jaylen Brown, who's always been known as a great defender, and the great defense he's also playing in this series as well when he's guarding a guy like Kevin Durant, or if he's guarding a guy like Kyrie Irving, or whoever he's guarding on the court. He always does a phenomenal job. Marcus Smart has also always been known as being a phenomenal defender, and he's also doing so in this series as well. Al Horford is also doing a phenomenal job defensively, and honestly the Celtics just have so many great individual defenders that it also turns into great team defense as well. But the great thing about the Celtics defense is not only are they playing great defense straight up and helping and doing all that, but they're also getting in the passing lanes as well and getting some nice poke steals and quickly driving the ball to the other side of the court and getting easy dunks or layups for themselves. And overall, how well they're playing defensively is certainly helping their offensive side as well, obviously. But another main reason for why the Celtics are playing so well in this series is due to the great play of a lot of their players, but especially their main player in Jayson Tatum. When you just look look at the numbers, in game 1, Jayson put up 31 points on 4 rebounds and 8 assists. Game 2, he put up 19 points on 6 rebounds and 10 assists. And in game 3, he put up 39 points on 5 rebounds and 6 assists. But even besides the numbers, sometimes players could put up great numbers, but when you actually watch them out there in the court, it's pretty clear that they're not playing winning basketball. But when you watch Jayson Tatum in this series, it's pretty clear that he is playing winning basketball. The way that he's scoring offensively from that 3-point range, from that mid-range, driving all the way to the basket, that phenomenal post turnaround fadeaway, that great pull-up mid-range jump shot, that great crossover into a 3-point jump shot, catch and shoot 3-point shot, dunking over players, finishing around players, just his great all-around scoring ability has just been so great for the Celtics overall. But even besides his great scoring ability, the way that he's facilitating out there once he's getting double or triple teamed, finding the open guy for a wide open catch and shoot 3-point jump shot in the corner, maybe a wide open dunk or layup driving all the way to the basket, the way that he's rebounding both offensively and defensively, Jayson has just been playing such a great all-around game for the Celtics, and of course is the main reason for why they're playing so well this series. The way that Jayson improved his game over the years has just been great to watch, and at this point it's pretty clear he's one of the best players in the NBA and is only getting better. But of course it's not only Jayson Tatum. As I mentioned, his sidekick in Jaylen Brown is also playing very well in this series. He put up 23 points on 5 rebounds and 3 assists in game 1, 22 points and 4 rebounds and 6 assists in game 2, and 23 points on 4 rebounds and 5 assists in game 3. Just very consistent numbers, which is exactly what the Celtics need, of course alongside with his great defensive presence. But another guy who's really stepped up for the Celtics as well has been Marcus Smart, and he's been a very underrated player for them. In game 1, he put up 20 points on 7 rebounds and 6 assists. Game 2, he put up 12 points on 1 rebound and 5 assists. And game 3, he put up 14 points on 3 rebounds and 6 assists. But the great thing about Marcus Smart is he's not necessarily one of those players that need to put up numbers to provide value for their team. He's one of those guys that provides value in other ways in terms of his phenomenal defense on Kyrie Irving or whoever is defending, his great team defense as well, his great leadership that he has shown especially in this playoff series and over the years as well. And something that he's really improved upon this season especially and in this playoff series especially is his ability to run the offense, and I think we've seen that a lot in this series, which has been absolutely crucial for the Celtics team, because when you look at their roster, they don't necessarily have a traditional point guard to really calm things down and run the offense once things get tight. But Marcus Smart has done a phenomenal job this season and in this series to really be that guy for the Celtics. And overall, I don't necessarily think people give Marcus Smart the credit that he does deserve for what he does provide for the Celtic team. But for the rest of this series, it's going to be very interesting to see how the rest of this series goes. If the Celtics are able to sweep the Nets, that would be absolutely incredible and give them a ton of confidence going forward in the rest of the playoffs and potentially even in the NBA Finals if they do make it that far. But of course, the main goal for the Celtics is just to beat the Nets in however many games it takes and move on to the next playoff series. I think no matter what, they're going to have a ton of confidence just based upon how well they were able to play in this playoff series, at least so far. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Why, in your opinion, do you think the Celtics are playing so well in this playoff series so far? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.
Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetic. Hope you can't go where I'm headed.